You're listening to the Mobcast Network.
Mando Mondays.
Mando Mondays.
A show about the Mandalorian that happens to air on Mondays.
We have spoken.
We have spoken. Hi,
we changed it to we have spoken.
Yeah, we have spoken. I'm your Native American pop culture spirit guide, Scotty, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Yeah, I mean, might as well just stay with it. Co-host.
You may know us from the Catacombs podcast, where we look at deep dive movies. You've also heard me, Andrew, at times on My Star Wars Life, which is our other Star Wars podcast.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of a companion piece to that, and we both enjoy The Mandalorian, like many of you. Apparently, it's the biggest stream show in history or whatever.
Because it's the most fantastic thing ever made.
Right. And so it's like, it's better than Stranger Things. I'm like,
right. Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I love Stranger Things. I love this. Can I love them equally?
Yes.
Why does it have to be a competition?
Here's how it works. I have 2 children, and I kind of have to love them both.
Right. Some days.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Some days. So we're going to take a look at The Mandalorian, and we're going to do it by episode. So this will be I think this will be a 9-episode limited series. An episode each devoted to each episode of the show, and then a 9th episode where we kind of recap the season and see where we think it's going to go.
That said, though, arguably, if somebody wants us to keep going, we'll keep going, but we'll have other shows for you to entertain.
We'll do other things on Mondays for you.
But if you're demanding it, we'll find a way. This is the way. There's just lines out the wazoo in this show.
And yes, I know we're, as of the recording this, Chapter 5 has just come out, but I wanted to get some space between each episode and not do. We do pretty quick recaps on My Star Wars Life, but after each episode, and I wanted this to be a little different. I wanted this to be a deeper dive into each episode, so that's what we're going to do. So, The Mandalorian, Episode 1 is clearly just titled Chapter 1.
Right.
It's written by Jon Favreau and directed by Dave Filoni,
which shows all the way through.
Right. It's amazing. Starring Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. We know him from Game of Thrones, The Kingsman, Golden Circle. He was on Narcos. He's going to be in the new Wonder Woman, 1984. He also has a Wonder Woman connection for the failed pilot from NBC from 2011.
Oh, wow. Had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't either. Carl Weathers as Grief Karga. We know Carl Weathers from Rocky, Predator, Happy Gilmore.
Ain't got time to bleed. Even though he doesn't say that line still.
He was born in New Orleans, but he has a Mobile connection because he was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So he's been here.
Really? I don't remember him that.
He's a security guard at the...
Brilliant.
So that's one of his early first parts.
Love it.
So I guess from being from New Orleans, he could come down here and shoot. So I'd love to ask him about it if he ever... Omid Abatai as Dr. Pershing, and he's been in American Gods and the Damien TV show that I did not know existed. Now I'm going to go back and watch it. He's been on a lot of TV and a lot of video game voices. Nick Nolte as Khalil. He was, of course, we know him. He's also a 3-time Oscar nominee.
Yeah, right.
But he's in 48 Hours, The Prince of Tides, Affliction, Lorenzo's Oil, and my personal favorite, 3 Fugitives.
I like that movie. I haven't seen that movie.
Great.
Yeah.
It was on Amazon Prime, and I watched it recently.
I need to rewatch that. I have not visited that in a while.
Such a good movie. Very cute. Very cute. Also, we have Taika Waititi as IG-11. He's in, we know him, he directed Thor Ragnarok, What We Do in Shadows, and then most recently Jojo Rabbit. We have Horatio Sands as Mythril. Horatio's been in SNL.
Which I still had no idea, by the way.
Yeah, the makeup on that was so good. I didn't know until
fantastic.
Episode 2. I didn't really read that. I should have read the credits, but I didn't at the time. I was so excited we had new Mandalorian. So he's on SNL. Most recently on Black Monday, which is on Showtime. If you've not seen Black Monday, oh my God, Black Monday's so good. He was in the Are We There, that TV show, and his very first role was in Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, wow.
And I only know that because he did a bit about it on SNL. Also, John Beasley as the bartender, and I bring John Beasley up because he's one of these great character actors who's been in a ton of stuff.
Yep.
That he didn't have. He's just usually in the background doing something, but he was in Rudy and the Mighty Ducks, and Crazy in Alabama, which is one of my favorite films. And we have Brian Posehn as the speeder driver. We know Brian from, he's a comedian. We know him from Big Bang Theory, New Girl, Deadly Class, and Just Shoot Me. That's the first time I saw him was on Just Shoot Me.
Yep, same where I know.
So, but each episode, I want to focus on somebody who's in the show. And typically, you would like who the star of the show. Let's talk about Pedro Pascal. We will have a deep dive on Pedro Pascal. However, this being my show, I chosen the first bounty puck to be Werner Herzog.
Which is brilliant.
Werner Herzog plays the client. He's the director of Grizzly Man, Fitzcarraldo, Nosferatu the Vampire. He's been an actor on Rick and Morty, The Boondocks, The Simpsons, Metalocalypse. And if you really want to get to know him as a person, I really need you to check out this documentary called Burden of Dreams, which is about the making of Fitzcarraldo, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to see what kind of nutcase Werner Herzog is. I love you, Werner Herzog. Nutcase in the most nicest.
Oh, he's just delightful.
Nutcase is a compliment because I just.
I mean, I'm a little terrified of him.
I'm a little bit terrified because he's.
But then a little part of me is like, maybe he's not so bad.
So here are the things. So here's the things about Werner Herzog that you may or may not know that I felt that.
These are the chits.
Yeah, these are the that I thought our audience needed to know. So they're lengthy, so I had to get a drink of water. Ready? Herzog once promised to eat a shoe if a young American film student went out and actually made the film he was always talking about. The young student was Errol Morris, who met the challenge with his offbeat 1978 Pet Sematary documentary, Gates of Heaven. He then went on to make The Thin Blue Line, which created the crime documentary.
Exactly.
The crime reenactor documentary came out because of that. I mean,
it's 100% Errol Morris. That's fact.
Should have won the Oscar, but it did not fit any of the categories, and they had to change the rules. So it missed it, but it changed rules. Just like how the Dark Knight missed the Best Picture and forced the Academy to do up to 10 nominations.
Right.
There are some movies out there who just make history. That's one of it. And if you've never seen The Thin Blue Line, I own it. And I've watched it quite often. It's amazing. Herzog made good on his promise. He ate a shoe, and it's in the film called Werner Herzog Eats a Shoe, directed by Les Blank. Les Blank, who also directed Burden of Dreams.
That's right.
Werner Herzog claimed to have walked by foot from Munich, Germany to Paris, France, a distance of 500 miles, in 1974 to prevent the very sick film historian and good friend Lottie Eisner from dying. As applying his logic, she wouldn't dare die until he visited her on his deathbed. Eisner indeed went on to live for 8 more years after Herzog's journey.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
These just get better. Joaquin Phoenix was in a car accident and on a winding road, canyon road, where his vehicle flipped over. Shaken and confused, he heard tapping on his window, and a voice said, "Just relax." Unable to see the man, Phoenix replied, "I'm fine. I'm relaxed." When he managed to see the man, he realized it was Werner Herzog, who then replied, "No, you're not." After helping Phoenix out of the wreckage, Herzog phoned for an ambulance and then vanished.
So wait, you're in a car wreck. Werner Herzog walks up, and you're like, just to be cold. I can't even do his accent.
No. You will be. You're fine. You are an accent. You're fine. You're fine. Just relax.
He's like, I am relaxed.
No, you're not.
Just imagine him standing there doing that. It's like dream.
I like how he pulled him out, called an ambulance, and just disappeared.
He ghosted out. He's like, nope, I have no time for this.
He's Batman.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It gets better. In late 2005, during an interview with a BBC film critic regarding Grizzly Man, a sniper opened fire on them with an air rifle.
Oh, my goodness.
The critic panicked, and when Herzog calmly said, "Someone is shooting at us," one of the pellets didn't hit Herzog. Unmoved, Herzog said that the bullet was not a significant one and insisted on continuing the interview.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, he is the greatest.
He is the only feature film director to have made a movie on every continent.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. That's right.
He never uses a storyboard.
Yeah.
And writes the screenplays in 4 to 5 days.
That's insane.
I love you, Werner Herzog. So that's our fun facts about Werner Herzog. He's on our bounty puck. If you can find him, I'll pay you 5,000 credits.
What were the ones called? The flan?
Yeah, the calamari flan. The
calamari.
calamari flan.
Yeah, calamari flan.
Calamari flan sounds like a dish.
I'm not really interested in squid jello. Squid pudding. That's what it would be. Squid pudding.
My question on that, and we'll get to it in a second, but when you looked at the little disc, he's like, really, that's worth a lot of money somewhere.
Yeah, I had that problem then I always have the challenge of how much is that currency really? So you gave him 4, or whatever. It was like some number that was arbitrary.
Yeah, it's small compared to the stack of imperial credits.
Exactly.
Which may or may not work. So the currency of the galactic area is interesting to me. And we'll probably never get an explanation, but that's okay. So you ready to get into this?
Yes, sir.
5 years after the fall of the Empire, a Mandalorian bounty hunter collects a bounty. After a scuffle exchange at a bar, he meets his guild leader, Greef Karga, who mostly has low-paying bounties which will not cover traveling expenses. Looking to get a big bounty, Karga gives him only an address to the next client, who wants the bounty to be private. In this time, so we first meet the Mandalorian on an icy planet. He's got a bounty fob, which is a new item. We don't know. They look like a lock.
Yeah, it looks like a bike lock.
Like a bike lock.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Apparently
it.
can track people down.
With magic.
I don't know what Jedi magic makes that thing work,
right.
But and that may come up later on. And so he goes to this bar, and the bar patrons are picking on this blue alien guy and talking about selling like his gills to.
Yeah, because they're gonna. They have a sweet musk. I mean, it's like pretty. Like it's again dense. It's very dark. It's very heavy. It's not Rogue One. It's arguably more violent,
right? So
in tone.
So the Mandalorian shows up, and of course he stands out because he's in this armor, and you can't see his face, and he looks cool. He's got a cape. Lando. He's got he's got a cape, and he walks to the bar, and they're all like harassing him, and. He's like, the one alien is like, well, he's a human, he speaks Huttese, but he's like, you spilled my drink. Mandalorian doesn't care. And the bartender is like, here's another drink.
Right.
And then as he's passing the drink over, the Mandalorian picks up the mug and just beats the crap out of everybody. And he gets shot by, what are they? They were, they're squid guys, but they're, squid head's one of them, but I can't think of, I want to say a Quailish, but it's not a Quailish. Quailish is the Walrus Man. Yeah. But anyway, so Star Wars fans are going to kill me for this. Anyway, so it doesn't matter because he gets shot, and then the Mandalorian catches him with a grappling hook and then brings him into a door, which slices him in half. Yep. Which was I was not expecting that in the first 3 minutes of my show. It's like, this sets the tone perfectly. This is
100% set the tone, and you now understand the world that you're in.
You're in. It's kind of wild.
It also
reckless.
really sets the stakes if you think about it.
Right. It's kind of wild and reckless. The Mandalorian takes goes to the blue alien guy who he has a bounty puck for him, and says and tells him he can come in warm. He can bring him in warm, or he can bring him in cold. And so he takes the alien. And they go to get a speeder. They meet a speeder ferryman.
Which is very much like we're crossing the River Styx.
Right.
Which was a nice little note.
He's called a ferryman. And he plays a little flute, and this droid shows up in this nice speeder. And the Mandalorian clearly has a problem with droids. And so he sends him on the way. Then here shows up Brian Posehn on his junky ass.
Yeah, half running
speeder, and
station wagon from the 80s.
And so they get into that, and they're driving off, and then you learn that the planet's terrible. The people like dump their toilets on the side of the planet, and it's welcome to where you live. Right. They show up to his ship, which is the Razor Crest. The alien is like, I'll just pay for another ship. Come out of my end. Let's not take this. Brian Posehn gets paid and then drives off and then gets eaten by a ice monster that comes to
which my kids said was an alligator walrus. That's what it looked like to them. Well, it had a name. They had a name for it. I can't remember.
We'll get into it in a little bit. But the monster cracks through the ice and starts trying to eat the Razor Crest. The Mandalorian has to get out and use his sweet pulse rifle, which looks like the pulse rifle from the animated series. Early on nods to, Boba Fett's first appearance was in the holiday special. And so in this animated bit, he's got this cool little gun with a fork on the end.
It's
of
like
it.
two tuning with a tuning fork on the end. Is
Right,
what
and so he uses it to shock the monster, which releases the Razor's Crest, and the Razor Crest gets off into space. We cut to the cockpit where the alien and the Mandalorian are hanging out, and the Mandalorian is not saying anything because he doesn't have to.
Right.
And the alien's all like, "Hey, I gotta go pee." So,
which is first time I've ever seen that in they're putting toilets in Star Wars.
second time, and possibly the third, because I have to go back and verify this, but that may have been the novelization because I haven't watched The Last Jedi in a while. But apparently they find BB-8 and Canto Bright in the toilet. But I read that, but I don't remember that. However,
I don't remember.
However,
that scene,
second time in the episode of Rebels, where it has Josh Gad as the bad guy, and he takes over Chopper.
Yeah.
Well, Chopper and AP5 are playing. AP5 knows that Chopper's something wrong with Chopper, and he follows Wedge into the refresher, and so he's standing at the urinal.
Oh, right.
We get the over the shot, so we don't see the urinal itself, but we see what he's doing.
Yep.
So he's at the
You're
urinal.
right.
So he's at the
You're
refresher.
right.
So
You're right.
And AP5 is like, "Hey, what's up?" And Reg is like, "Can you not be here? I have to refresh."
I think I might start calling it a refresher.
Yeah, that's what Star Wars words has been refresher until they vac tube and gray hole now, I guess.
Yeah.
So which are real things. So
yeah,
that's like bringing it all in. So the alien goes to the back of the Razor Crest to go to quote unquote use the vac tube, and he's like, "It may be a minute because I'm molting," which I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah, it's gross and awesome.
And I like how he's like, "Oh, this feels good. I haven't evacuated since the solstice." And I'm like, "How long was that? How long can you hold that?"
Right.
Aliens are weird. What he's actually doing is trying to find a way out. So I guess he's looking for the escape pod, and so he opens up one button and opens up a vault of weapons. He quickly closes that, and he's still trying his BS story. Oh, blah blah blah. It's like, I hope to get home to Life Day, and he finds like all these other people frozen in carbonite on the ship. And then he's like, I guess I'm not making it home to Life Day. And then the Mandalorian, who snuck up behind him, like even out of shot, I didn't know him come down.
Right.
Just come up and goes, "Guess you're not," and throws him in the carbonite freezer and adds him to his collection.
Right.
So then that's when he shows up to Grief Karga, and who's happy to see him because he's got all the bounties, and it's not going to pay a lot because whatever it is. And he wants to know how many more bounties he's got. He's got 4 or 5, like a bail jumper, and a smuggler. And he's like, "I'll take them all." And he's like, No, I've got other mouths to feed. But we got this really hard one to do. If you want to go do it, go. And so that's where we are. So the Mandalorian goes. He takes the job. There's no fob for it. Just they want to do it face to face. No, there's no puck. There's no puck for it. So they want to do face to face. So he goes down the street and to this house building or whatever, knocks on the door, and we see our favorite Jabba's Palace eyeball guardian shows up and does the famous line, and then lets him in. This is when the Mandalorian meets the client and a bunch of Imperial stormtroopers who he's using as bodyguards. Stormtroopers are looking worse for wear. It's like, the Empire's failed. They just like, this is what your armor you're stuck with.
And I part of me wonders if we're going to find out maybe that they're not.
I think they're stormtroopers. I think they're
just worn down. I just thought it was like maybe these guys are just putting this stuff on because there's a little bit better than what they have.
I think they would have customized it more.
Yeah.
If it was.
It just was so dirty. It looked like they had just like.
But the Empire's fallen, so that I don't think they have ways to replenish it as well. So I think that's why it's dirty. So I totally, and you could be right. They could be mercenaries, but I'm pretty sure they're stormtroopers.
Grief Karga said you were coming.
What else did he say?
He said you were the best in the parsec.
So the client is all like, you have good representation. Grief Karga says you're the man for the job. All we've got is a fob and 2 digits on it, which turns out to be the age. It's 50 years old. And we have a location where it's last seen. Man of your talent will be able to get this. And so then we have the scientist, Dr. Pershing, show up and scares the Mandalorian. And there's a standoff between the Mandalorian and the Stormtroopers, and Stormtroopers are like, "There's 4 of us," and Mandalorians are like, "I like the mods."
Right.
Like everyone in that room is dead, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And Pershing's just like, "Hey, I just he's excited. He didn't, whatever they want, he wants it alive." But the client's being practical. He's like, understanding how the bounty hunting works. We'll pay you if he's alive. We'll pay you substantially less if he's dead. And as a down payment, we'll give you this Beskar, which is Mandalorian steel. And so he takes the Mandalorian steel and accepts the job. And so he leaves, and then after receiving the single bar of Beskar, as a down payment, the Mandalorian meets with the armorer at an enclave housing fellow Mandalorians. So he goes to this other place where he finds other Mandalorians. The armorer, who melts the metal to give the Mandalorian a new pauldron, says the metal was gathered in the Great Purge, and the excess will sponsor the foundling like the Mandalorian was once. Asking if he had his signet. She's going to put a signet on it. He hasn't earned one yet. And so we realize now that, the Mandalorians we knew before in Clone Wars, and the first one we ever met was Fett.
Right.
And that's arguably if he's a Mandalorian, because Lucas has said before that him and Jango are not.
Right.
And so we'll see if that changes. But the ones we know for, like, Satine, Sabine, Bo-Katan, there's a bunch of them I'm forgetting.
Yeah, watch
Vizsla, pre-Vizsla, and
season 4 of Rebels.
Yeah, so you're right there.
You get a whole chunk of it.
But we realize in this clan they don't take off their helmets. There's obviously some sort of religious aspect that is in this group that is not with the other ones we have seen.
Right.
So clearly from the bat they're telling us this is not what we know, which I love. Giving us something new but familiar.
Teasing it up, for sure.
He gets this cool pauldron and he puts it on. Then he travels to the desert planet Arvala 7, and he meets a native. He's not a native. He's a Ugnaught. I guess he's not native from that planet. They're from a Noat.
I think he's retired.
He's retired there.
Yeah.
Named Khalil, who helps him so they can be rid of the criminals. And mercenaries who now inhabit the area. Khalil teaches him the Mandalorian to ride a blurg. Shout out to blurgs. As there are no land speed vehicles to traverse the area, and sends him to where the bounty is located. Upon reaching the hideout, the Mandalorian is forced to team up with a bounty hunter droid, IG-11. They manage to clear the facility of his Nikto guards and discover that the bounty is a green, big-eared infant creature. IG-11 says the best line ever in that, because Mandalorian says, "Hey, I thought this thing was 50 years old." And IG-11 says, "Some species age slower than others. This creature could live up for centuries."
Yeah.
Sadly, we will never know, and goes to try to kill him.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, it's a tease of exposition,
right,
followed up by a gag.
Right.
Like 100%.
So sadly, we'll never know. And then Mandalorian shoots the droid to protect the baby and his bounty, and that's where we leave the episode. So to recap that, to go a little deeper in that, so the Mandalorian arrives to the planet. He's looking around and gets attacked by a blurg, which are it's basically a face, a tail, and 2 legs.
Yeah, it's a tadpole with a giant mouth,
right,
and some legs.
And it beats the crap out of the Mandalorian and nearly kills him. And luckily, Khalil's there to save the day. And they talk about, "Oh yeah, I know where this thing you're looking for is, and it's going to cost you half." And he's like, "Half the bounty's a lot." And he's like, "No, half the blurgs."
Right.
He's like,
he just wants
you can keep the blurgs. And no, you need to ride one. So we have the cowboy busted and Bronco scene,
right?
Where my favorite part of that though is like when he's trying to he's trying to ride it, and it's like it seems like it's angry. He's like, "Yeah, well, I did try to fry it."
I also love the fact that Khalil, how do you say that?
Khalil
stands with him and says, if you're a Mandalorian,
right?
Like, this is something you can do.
Right, you're a badass.
So it's interesting that, like, the lore, in the first episode, for someone who may not have the depth that maybe you and I have as fans, in the first episode, they're already introducing, like, these nice keystone moments for you to go, dude, this whole group is amazing.
It's similar to what Kazan does in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Force Awakens, regardless how you feel about it, if it's your first Star Wars movie, which it totally could be,
Yeah. It was for my kids.
and but explains the Jedi like as a myth,
Right.
and like it's a known myth. The Mandalorians are the same way.
Yep.
But what's different is they're really a myth because we don't have a lot of info on them.
Right.
I mean, I think there's more Jedi info out there than there are Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, there's no
episodes.
Mando code.
Right, so we don't know, and
Right.
so it's really fun to be a part of this world. We're all in on the myth, and
Right.
so I think that's very awesome. And right, he tells him that, hey, you rode the giant mythosaur, and so you can clearly handle the face with.
So he knows the history though. That's what I
Right.
thought was interesting, is that he has some kind of tie, not or knows the lore enough.
Right.
Um.
He's an older Ugnaught. He's probably been around.
Yeah.
For those who don't know Ugnaughts are in The Empire Strikes Back. They run. They keep Cloud City pretty much running, mostly through Tibetan gas mining. But the way we see them is they're altering the carbon freezing chamber for humans.
Now Khalil looks less like there's a shift. He looks less. I thought Ugnaught looked a little bit more pigly, if I remember correctly.
Well, he's piggly too, but he's like
He's less piggly.
I think it's the difference between the makeup of 1980
Right.
and the makeup of now.
Right.
And the makeup is similar because they're using practical makeup on that. There's not CGI or whatever. It's
Right.
And they could have easily done like dots and put Nick Nolte in there. There's clearly another actor because Ugnaughts are short, and so.
And the lips don't always sync up though. Is
Right,
one of the
which I
things,
think is because it reminds me of kind of like Planet of the Apes. The mouth is very much like old school Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
And it works for me. It doesn't take.
It didn't pull me out one bit.
I bought it.
I didn't get it. My wife is a crazy person for sync, and so for whatever reason, wardrobe and sync. That's what my wife notices,
Well,
and she was like, "Yeah,
It's good to have her around though.
yeah,
right?
yeah, oh yeah."
So he managed to break the blurg, and so the Mandalorian and Khalil and their blurs go out to this hideout where the Nick-2 have got. There's like 20 Nick-2 hanging out, and then IG-11 shows up and is like, "Hey, by the bounty hunter code, you've got to give me this whatever you've got." And I'm like, "Really? Is that a thing?" It's just like, because you have a bounty code means I have to. Okay.
Right.
You just said word, robot. I don't think that's right.
It was such it's such an innocent little moment for him to step in.
Right.
It's almost like he doesn't know.
Right.
Like he's not programmed for that logic, so he
Right.
just steps into it.
And of course, Mandalorian hates droids, so he has to go down there to go solve the problem.
Right.
And the IG-11 shoots at him. The coolest thing about IG-11, because we all first met IG in IG-88, who was basically a prop. And, he was kind of a puppet because he moved a little bit,
Right, but it wasn't much.
Right, and then we see like his shell in Cloud City, and so we're not sure if that was IG-88 or whatever. Yes, I know the answer is in Legends, but I don't count Legends as we're only having canon discussions. So, but the way he moves and attacks is amazing. So he's like a series of gears that switch around and
Right.
flip, and
Right.
and just his head and his legs and his arms, the whole thing is just he's facing always one way, but he can always shoot you from anywhere else. Just
Yeah,
the
his
way
whole
he
everything's
twists.
on a swivel.
Everything's
literally.
on a sword,
Yeah.
and it's so awesome.
Oh, it's great.
It's the best thing. I got really giddy when I saw it in the trailer for the first time. It's like, oh my god! And then seeing it in the episode itself is and he's just terminating these guys, these poor Nick-2 who do not stand a chance. And then he gets wounded.
Right.
So the Mandalorian shows up, and they have this conversation about no one. They didn't know they were supposed to. Any other guild members were on this case, and then Mandalorian's like, "Hey, we need to team up," and IG-11's like, "Yeah, that's cool. We'll do that." But I get the bounty reputation, and
Right. So and
it's like
and,
the droid really cares about that. That's interesting.
but it's I now right not pulling anything away, and again, hopefully you watched this show, but there's it's later a call back that becomes important.
Right.
This reputation thing inside the bounty hunting guild is a big deal to everybody but
Right.
the Mando.
Right.
The Mando seems to give two shits.
Right. He just wants the
Two
money.
chits. I'm sorry, two chits. He just wants the money.
Right, because he's got and we'll talk about it because I don't want to skip episodes, but there's clearly a larger agenda for our Mandalorian hero.
Right.
They team up. There's all kinds of crazy gunfire. Lots of Nick 2 get shot. IG-11 gets shot, and then the moment he gets shot, he's like, all right, we're pinned down. I'm going to start self-destruct.
It appears we are trapped. I will initiate self-destruct sequencing.
Whoa, you're what?
Manufacturer's protocol dictates I cannot be captured. I must self-destruct.
Do not self-destruct.
Factory says I'm not supposed to get captured.
Right.
And so there's this whole running gag for like 4 or 5 times of him just like, time to self-destruct. And Mando's like, stop doing that. The Nick 2's bringing out a giant Gatling gun. It's almost like an E-Web 11.
Yeah, it was almost like an E-Web, just mounted on some kind of floating platform.
Thing, but I think it's a different type of gun. And the Mando and IG, they take it over, and Mando just goes crazy and just kills the rest of the Nick 2.
And it's one of the most, the whole show, right? To preface this is a Western. It just so happens to take place in space. And I have another comment regarding that, but one of the things is a lot of the scenes are tropes, very well done, are tropes from Western scenes. That is the Gatling gun scene.
Right, it's your Gatling gun scene, yeah.
It's the Gatling gun scene where he gets in the back of the wagon where the Gatling gun is and just lays waste to all the bad guys, whoever they may be. It's the exact same thing. It's beautiful, and I love seeing it, and it makes me happy.
So our heroes save the day. They find the tracking fob going to this building, but the door is locked, and so they use the Gatling gun to opening it up, which was great.
Oh, it was gold.
And they walk in, and then there's the poor 1 or 2 Nick 2 that are still there, just basically there to run in and get shot.
Right. Red shirts.
They were red shirts. They were totally red shirts. And so they walk in, they find their targets in a eggshell-looking thing that's kind of floating, and they pop it open, and it's basically a Baby Yoda.
Right.
That's what I'm going to call him from now on. We're just calling him Baby Yoda.
On the other show, we have a different name. On this show, he's Baby Yoda.
So otherwise, it's Baby Yoda. And yes, I know it's not Yoda, but as far as I know, Yoda's name is his species. He could just be like human.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's right.
Because we don't know. Thank you, George Lucas, for keeping that mystery. So it's Baby Yoda. And we'd mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. IG-11 is all like, all right, too bad we want to see how him grow up. And then Mandalorian has to shoot him, and now he's stuck with this baby trying to figure out what he's going to do. And that's how we end.
Right. So, and it is a what the fudge moment where you're to me, my jaw was wide open because they have done a fantastic job at keeping the spoilers at bay.
I didn't know
there was no toys released. There was no errors made. And now, of course, they're suffering a little bit because people want the toys.
Right.
And they have to rush them to market.
Right.
I don't blame them. They don't know if it's going to be this big of a hit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I don't blame them either.
But my God, there's no inkling of this. And now you have what is one of the most amazingly cute things ever to exist in cinema.
Right.
Unbelievable.
And the memes that have come out of this,
it's gold.
God,
and if you're not following any of that stuff, all you do is just spend 10 minutes on your choice of any board, and you will see a billion memes that are great.
Baby Yoda meme. Just Google it, and you'll just find all kinds of stuff. And of course, if you're on Facebook, chances are, if you're on Facebook, you know a Star Wars fan, and they've been posting them.
Oh, of course.
And I know people who don't know Star Wars are like, "What is this?" And like, you should watch the show because it's adorable.
Right.
And spoiler alert, it keeps getting more and more cute. Damn.
Yeah, it gets out of control.
Oh, and it's like, but it's not like a bad way.
No, it's been pretty even the entire time.
It's perfect. I'm like,
no, it's a child. It's totally a child.
So I'm digging it. I was amazed that when I first saw it as well. I got to actually catch the episode before the Disney Plus crashed on the first day, and so it was like right in it. So I only got to watch it the once because the second time the Disney Plus had so many subscribers it crashed for a little while. But I managed to catch it in there, and I'm watching it. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, I remember we did that. Yeah, the event for the first episode of My Star Wars Life. And JD had not seen it yet.
Right.
And so I sat where I could watch JD watch it because I know what kind of fan he is. Right. And I just wanted to see his face. And so I turned very cautiously. I didn't want to spoil anything for him, but turned and then watched him see that reveal and his face. And then he whipped over to you, and he's just beaming.
Right.
It's a Star Wars moment. It's a beautiful, beautiful moment.
I've never thought Yoda was cute. And then now I'm like, I didn't know you can make that cute. I'm curious. I'm convinced now you can make anything cute.
Right.
That's because he's pretty wrinkly and old. So it's just like,
no, it was well done. It's totally well done.
So now, since we recapped the show and kind of get everyone caught up and some of our thoughts on it, wanted to do a new segment because the whole show's
Everything's new.
and so Co-House is introducing a segment. So
This, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fandom Free Zone. Now, what that means is that I'm going to lay the truth down the way I think it needs to be laid down. I'm going to remove as much fandom as humanly possible from my body. I am a ginormous Star Wars fan. I'm going to remove it out from my statements and maybe on occasion make a controversial statement that may even upset Scotty in some capacity because I just have to pull away and just look at it for the hard truth.
Sure, and I will tell you why you're wrong. But that's okay.
So one of the bigger challenges, the first piece I want to refer to is a lot of people are very frustrated with I've read lately, people are frustrated with the opening sequence of chapter 1, which is the entire setup with the blue guy. I don't know what. And the complaints range from boredom. I had a lot of people tell me it was boring, that it didn't really matter to the story. I've heard various pieces. And I think that's a sad state of idiots watching television. And the problem I have with that is that is exactly as world building. It's setting up the entire space. If you don't have that chunk and you just suddenly throw them into getting a Baby Yoda, you have even less of an idea of what is actually going on. Right? It's not constructed as well as it could be. It means they could have flown it in, and this is one of the challenges I think Dave Filoni is going to have. It feels animation but live action. It's written like a cartoon for live action. That's also a theme we're going to see with why the length of shows isn't consistent, because in animation world, you're writing for every single frame you're actually going to produce. You don't produce you don't shoot extra and cut it back. So the story's very trim, and I think he's running into some challenges. Even as an executive producer, he's running into some challenges in that.
Because Favreau wrote this one.
Totally. Just Filoni directed in that space. But Filoni's still an executive producer.
Director money.
Yeah.
I'm sure that pilot.
Getting that $60K.
And then the residuals and everything else.
Oh, he's golden. But he's also executive producer, which means he's on the writing board somewhere. Right. So there's a balance. The other side of it is this one. The other piece of the Fandom Free Zone I want to bring up is I said this on the Star Wars Life, but I think it's important more so for this show. We may talk about Jon Favreau on this show from time to time, but he does not matter to me as much. I mean, he does because he helped get the show made, but he means nothing to me as much as Filoni. Right. Dave Filoni having this opportunity is the chance, and this is personal opinion, not part of the Mobcast Network, is the chance to maybe upend who's currently in the seat right now and put Filoni in that space. I would love nothing more. I have nothing to do with her. I just don't think she's a very good Star Wars, a proponent for Star Wars. I'd love to see Kathleen Kennedy removed, and this is our chance to see Dave Filoni step into that spot and do it.
Okay, so
he's going to prove himself.
So let me defend Kathleen Kennedy.
Sure.
In this.
And this is not, I don't have a problem with her being a woman, by the way.
No. Here's the thing about Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's perfect for the job of what she has. Has she made some missteps? Yes. Lord and what's the other guy's name? Miller. Picking them to direct Solo, knowing what they did, and then knowing full well what kind of filmmakers they are, and then expecting them to make a Star Wars movie out of that, you're not going to get. And that's why they got removed from Solo, because they were making a Lord Miller film, which would have been fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
I like Ron Howard.
But the wrong tone.
Right. Wrong tone. It's not. Star Wars has a tone. And so it may have been a little too silly for what Kathleen Kennedy wanted and what she thinks Star Wars should be. It's the reason why we still don't have Star Detours.
Right.
That's at least 24 episode animated series that Seth Green has done, and it's complete. It's been on the shelf. It was finished during Lucas's run when Lucas still had it and it was going to air, and then the Disney thing happened. And the decision was to let's make Star Wars serious and not do the parody stuff. So it's sitting. One day we may get it. Who knows? Well, Disney Plus should put it out. I think I'd be happy with it. However, she's picked up the torch to keep it going. And in her run, we've gotten Rebels, and we've gotten Rogue One, and we've gotten Solo out of it. The Force Awakens is fine. I'm not crazy about The Last Jedi. That's out of everything. I'm really not crazy about The Last Jedi. But everything else, I'm pretty happy with. It's Star Wars to me. So I get what you're saying. I think Kathleen Kennedy's really good at. I mean, of course she's really good at what she does. Look at what her.
She's a brilliant producer.
Look at her background.
But she's not creative. And I think the problem
That's okay. That's why she has a. I think Filoni needs to be like a creative director.
Well, the challenge I keep running back into with the same scenario with her, and this is why it's the fandom free zone, because I'm looking at it just purely from this. I look at Filoni, and I am a fan. I'm too. But I look at Filoni, and I look at the passion he has and the training he has from the Lucas perspective.
Right.
He's now same time. Lucas picked Kennedy to be in that spot.
Right.
He handpicked her. The problem I have with her is I don't think she fully understands the world and what it does mean in terms of the fan base that exists.
Right.
That's not talking about Mary Sue Ray stuff. That's nothing to do with that.
Right.
It literally has to do with you put Lord Miller to do Solo, and the tone of that is going to be too comedic.
Right.
Is what it is. And so you flip it back around, but you're not willing to take that same energy and put it into a new property whatsoever. Yet you want to protect the integrity of Solo, right? And then you create, in my opinion, a series of abysmal choices. Certainly, some I don't mind if Han Solo dies in Force Awakens. But again, Last Jedi, the mistreatment of those characters, Akbar, fan characters, the mistreatment of that just makes me think you don't fully understand what it's in. And then she comes out not recently or too recently by making a statement that there's not enough content out there for Star Wars. And it's like, hello, you don't want to use Legends? I understand. I'm sure there's contractual reasons. Is what people don't fully understand about this. It has nothing to do with they don't like them.
No.
They don't want to pay that money again, right?
That's the big reason. That's the big secret reason why no one wants to talk about it.
That's exactly what it is.
But it comes down to this. The thing about Legends is that Lucas and Lucasfilm at the time, during the time of Legends, let it get so wild. It's so convoluted that it's hard to wrangle it in.
I guarantee you there's bad contracts on all that stuff.
Right. And so do you accept it all or you cut your losses? And what they did was they cut your losses, which I would have done too if I'm looking at this sea of this. It's a mess. Legends is a mess. I know people like Legends. There's stories in Legends I like, but personally, I don't like many Star Wars novels because it's boring. I'm sorry out there.
Look, I'm not going to argue with you.
My opinion.
I'm heir to the Empire guy. That's my role.
Heir to the Empire, Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, I don't care about the Truce of Baku or whatever the hell that was, or the Courtship of Princess Leia. I don't. I snore fesses. I just couldn't get into it. It's not whatever. Especially when they brought in the Yuzhan Vong and just none of that stuff appealed to me. And so I like even the comics. The comics weren't great. The Dark Horse stuff. There's some interesting gems, and I liked that an anthology series that was kind of neat. They had some really neat stories, but overall they weren't solid.
Right.
I love Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2. Those are good stories. I thought the Star Wars What If, the Infinities, was fun.
Yeah.
But whatever. Legends. I don't know how much decision she's making when it comes down to like killing Akbar. Look, in the end, is killing Akbar. I mean, he's a trope because he gets to say, or he's a meme because he gets to say it's a trap, and that's become a thing. But in the end, we only got to meet him for like 5 minutes in all of Return of the Jedi.
But Boba Fett's the same thing.
Boba Fett looks cool, though.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm not a fan of Fett.
I'm not either. I think he's a most overrated character ever exists.
Oh yeah, because he's a glorified delivery man. God, shout out to delivery men out there. But he's basically Amazon Prime for the Galactic Empire. I mean, for Jabba the Hutt.
Right.
And so for both of them, really. And Jabba ordered a Han Solo from the Emperor.
Right.
Delivered via Vader, and the Fett got it.
That's exactly it.
Amazon Prime. And so I don't know if she's like, all right, in our scripts we need to kill A, B, and C. I don't think that's her.
No, but it's part of it's. So if you're shepherding that brand, right? Because essentially Star Wars is a brand.
Right.
And if you're shepherding that brand, you should protect that space. And the only reason I'm bringing up this whole thing is to say Filoni and Favreau are making the right steps forward. The one biggest thing, the most important thing on the first episode of Mando, that this is the takeaway, and it'll change per episode. I've got some real negative pieces of opinion.
Yeah, I can't wait to episode 3. Oh, no,
yeah.
4.
Four, yeah.
4 is my favorite.
Yeah, we're going round to round.
And we're at 5. And I like 5 too a lot, but 4 is currently my favorite.
4 is my least favorite. But when we land into it, we have to look at the fact that The Mandalorian represents a massive shift inside the Star Wars space. It's an original IP, not based on anything.
Right.
That is the first live action piece that has ever really worked. Because Star Wars is based on success.
Right.
Like you can't a mediocre solo release, it doesn't matter. Although streaming it did really well.
I think Solo's release is due to its date. Push Solo to Christmas, it kills.
Yeah.
It just kills. It just
fair enough.
Murder.
Totally.
But Disney wanted to protect Mary Poppins Returns, and that's the only reason why Solo came out in May. Only reason. And money.
Yeah.
And in the end, was it worth it? I
Right.
don't think so.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by so these conversations at the end of it, that's what I mean by fandom free zone. You have to remove all that and look at it for what it really is. Because as much as you love it, much as you and I both love it, and that's the fun of it, there's also a reality of it that's like, hey, I got to respect it or hate it, and I just got to deal with it.
So with the success of Mandalorian, and currently is a success, I don't think it will be an award success. I don't expect any.
No.
I don't think
No,
any
no,
Emmys or
no
anything
way.
out of this. I mean, if it is, it's all technical stuff.
100%.
This is not.
They're
a show.
$15 million an episode.
Yeah, this is not a show that the Emmys are going to go. Oh, look, let's give Pedro Pascal or Filoni for directing. This is not going to happen.
Technical awards
It'll
only.
be technical awards. Just sorry, guys. Science fiction. That's what happens to us.
Yeah,
You know, we
that's
love this
the-
stuff.
right.
And then, with the exception of very few, unless, HBO and all the money they put out for Game of Thrones.
Right.
Of course, Disney has that kind of money.
Yeah, but look at the last season of Game of Thrones. Still hated.
Yeah, not great.
Right. Okay, that's all I wanted to say on
No,
it. Just to preface it, this segment will be
Right.
reoccurring.
But I'm going to tag on to this too,
Yep.
because and just something I know we'll revisit in our 9th episode or recap episode for the season. So with their success, do you think cinematically Favreau and Filoni is the future?
Yes, 100%.
You think that's where they'll go?
I think the creative choices they've made, just based on looking at The Mandalorian, technically and visually, means that they're pushing boundaries. The fact that they're shooting anamorphic is a big deal.
Right.
Right? That anamorphic is the hardest way to do VFX, and that
Okay,
comes from
for our
Alex
audience
Fungi.
who did not listen to
Oh,
my
yeah,
Star
sure.
Wars Life
So
episode.
anamorphic is a type of lens that you use. It's an old school kind of lens originally, right? They're usually classic lenses. They might be rehoused, but it is a square frame that you have to basically stretch out, and you do that in the post-production process, right? But the fact that they shot anamorphic, it makes the VFX that much harder, but they did it because it's the right way to tell the story. The lens, the way the lens affects the light and does all these separation and all that junk, it stretches the character. It's the right way to tell the story, especially a Western, right? The fact that they put that level of nuance in on the production side, it means that they're going to do that same level of nuance going forward in all aspects, because we're already seeing it. We're seeing it in the character dropping in these various cameos in the most pristine way possible. That's a little bit of fandom there, but it's true. They're dropping them in very carefully. I think they're the key. I really do.
Cool. And we'll recap this in the 9th episode of our show and see where we feel the future of the Mandalorian is going to be for season 2, and then we'll see what they're. I'm curious, and something to put your cap on. What if Filoni and Favreau team up to do a film, or I think they'd let Favreau direct before Filoni.
They would, yeah.
And so
Well.
what was
They
the-
may give Filoni something smaller and let Favreau be the EP on it, so
Right.
producing on it, and they may let Filoni go loose that way.
or vice versa. Put Filoni as a EP on something that.
I
think they're a new team.
I do too, and I'd like to see them do something post. Honestly, I'd like to see them do something. I'd love Ezra's story. I'd love Ahsoka. I'd love Thrawn. I'd love that story, Sabine.
Yeah.
That's the story I'd like to see live action.
And we'll see. I mean, with the exception of a few, I think everyone could. I mean, Taylor Gray could definitely play an Ezra. Tia Cigar could definitely be Sabine. Not so sure about Ashley. I mean, her voice is always going to be Ahsoka to me, but I don't think she has the physical look.
And the great part about Ahsoka is she could be anybody.
Right? And not saying that bad about Ashley. Ashley Stein, she's wonderful. I just when I picture her in the, I don't know, it doesn't fit for me. But that's just me.
Yeah, casting will be key.
Yep. All right. So I said this was going to be a shorter episode. It's not.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. It's not your fault. It's ours. It's just.
Well, look, this episode's 42 minutes. The chapter 1's 42,
Yeah,
so you know.
We're organic. I just wanted to. I could come up with a better name for this, but at the moment there'll be Easter eggs. I wanted to point out some of the Easter eggs that were in the episode before we leave, because there's some really interesting deep cuts in here. So let's start with the blurg. Do you remember when the blurg first appeared?
Weren't they on Rebels?
They were, but that wasn't their first appearance.
Oh.
Their first appearance on the screen was Ewoks: The Battle for Endor in 1985.
Oh, you're kidding
Nope.
me.
They were based on a unused concept by art by Phil Tippett, originally who developed the Tauntaun for Episode 5.
Yep.
Blurgs were seen again on the planet of Ryloth in Star Wars Clone Wars, and then, of course, we saw them in Rebels. We've mentioned this too before, but in this episode, but the Mandalorian uses a phase pulse blaster on a sea monster in reference to the animated sequence, which introduced Boba Fett in the Star Wars Holiday Special in 1978, when Fett used his Lance's spear on sea creature. Many aliens, droids, costumes, and other props from the recent Star Wars films were reused in the background dressing. Notably, 2 of the Cloud Riders from Solo's Star Wars story can be spotted in the cantina where the Mandalorian meets Chief Karga,
Oh, I did notice that.
still wearing the same outfits. There are the Rodian named Chusito and the Melbrew known as Arome Isalo. Speaking of the holiday special, it's official. Life Day is canon. Yay!
It is one of the biggest moments ever.
That and in Solo when we find out Terkasi,
Yep.
the martial arts from the video
From
game.
the video
and I'm
game.
like, I was in the theater and my arms went out and no one knew why. I was like, it's canon now. It's
It's great.
I love it. That game's terrible. I need another Star Wars fighting game in my life. So the airbrush lettering on the bounty puck that the Mandalorian shows Mithril, the alien. Do you know what it translates to?
No.
Wanted.
Wanted.
Yeah, it's wanted.
Interesting.
So, and it's shown as a mirrored image. In the Mandalorian tribe base, there's a Mandalorian in the background wearing the armor Boba Fett wore in the holiday special.
Oh, no joke.
Nope. The name Beskar originated in Star Wars Legends in an article for the Star Wars magazine. In the article "Mandalorian's People and Culture," published by Star Wars Insider in 2006. Before that, it was simply known as Mandalorian Iron. The mercenaries at the compound are all Nikto species. The majority of them are, I'm going to butcher this, Kajan Sinan Nikto, or Red Nikto, and some are Cardassian Nikto, Kazdan, Green Nikto sprinkled in. And Nikto also are, the name of the Nikto comes from
The day the Earth stood
the
still.
day the Earth stood still.
Yeah.
Nikto Barada.
Is there a Klaatu?
Yeah, there's a Klaatu and a Barada and a Nikto.
Yeah.
I think Hondo's species is Klaatu. I think.
Oh, that's amazing. If
I
that,
think
I
so.
didn't realize
No.
that.
No, Klaatus are the guys who, to skip ahead, they're the Raiders in episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
sure.
Klaatu.
They're also in the...
Honda's a Weequay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
And I knew something. And then Baradas are, they're on the skiff, but I can't, like, I think all I know is there's one
Oh,
of them.
maybe the softer face. Like
Yeah.
the,
I got a picture of them. I remember they were in the Decipher card game. I used to play them. The Gatekeeper droid is the TT8L/Y7, and he says,
Goodness gracious me. R2 detour. Bo say 3 pay oa. A tuta od mishka jabaduhat. I don't think they're going to let us in, R2.
that famous saying. The ferryman is a Kubaz. Do you remember the Kubaz?
That's the spy, right?
Yeah, he's a spy who tells
Yeah.
the Empire where Obi-Wan and Luke are going to.
Right.
The ice creature is known as the Revenak.
Ravenak. There it is.
In the background, in one of the scenes, we saw a Kowakian monkey lizard being roasted.
Which is not Size Noodles.
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Sea Crumb, yeah.
Yeah, and they're bipedal reptilian species native to the jungle light outer realm planet called Kowak. We also see the Mythos. We talked about the Mythosaur.
Yep.
Do you know what the Mythosaur is?
No.
That's the symbol that Boba Fett wears. We see it at the beginning of.
Oh, it looks like a elephant. What am I trying to say?
That's the Mythosaur.
Mastodon.
Yeah, but that's the Mythosaur symbol
Huh.
that we see in the. We also see in the Enclave.
Yep.
Mandalorian
And then you
Enclave.
also see it in Force Awakens.
Right, so it's
at
there.
Maz's place.
So that is the Mythosaur. I will leave everybody with this. The Razor Crest was a gunship used by the Mandalorian. It was once a military craft used to patrol local territories prior to the Galactic Empire. So they're Mandalorian ships. The Mandalorian uses the vessel as a transport for living headquarters while hunting fugitives on the Outer Rim territories. The Razor Crest was designed by Lucasfilm Limited's veteran concept artist and vice president Doug Chang. It was created as a practical model rather than a computer-generated effect.
That's one of the best parts.
And so So when you see it out there, it's really there.
Yep. It's flying about.
It's just like old school Star Wars, and that's what's fun. There's a good mix of practical.
Back to Filoni, and they're doing it right.
People talk about winning the lottery. Dave Filoni won the lottery for Star Wars fans. I mean, growing up, he's our age. Growing up as a Star Wars fan, to get handpicked by Lucas to continue the legacy.
Yeah.
I dreamed of that for years, and I missed out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%.
And so that was episode 1 of The Mandalorian. Episode 2 is the child, or no, the sin.
Child.
No, just to do episode 3 is the sin.
Yep.
So episode 2 is the child. So we'll talk about the child next time.
There we go.
We may or may not have a special guest. We don't know.
Yeah, we'll throw them into the mix.
Yeah, it's a new show. We don't know what we're going to do. It's 6 minutes shorter than most of our shows, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, that's good enough.
This is Scotty saying, this is our contribution to the multiverse. Go out and make yours.
Koha's out.
I have spoken.
Thank you for listening to the Mobcast Network.